Good afternoon. My name is Xochitl Brevera, and I'm the director of the Racial Justice Action Center. Here today in support of, and no, we're not, it's not being presented today, but just wanted to be here to convey a lot of support for the criminal justice reform package that you all referred to, work session earlier today. And actually, I think there's a good number of us, so I'd just love to ask if folks are here for that criminal justice reform bill in support of it, if you could just stand. Terrific. I've been in front of this body a number of times over the years to talk about criminal justice reform, especially last year. There was a lot of work that we did with the legislation you all passed to create and authorize the design team for a pre-arrest diversion initiative. And I know most of you all know what that is, but fundamentally shifting how we approach community safety and public health, diverting people out of the criminal justice system. As an update, in my 15 years of doing this work, I've never been so heartened and felt so optimistic about a project. The design team is 45 of the city stakeholders from all walks of life who are coming together and been doing a fantastic job of designing an initiative that I think will transform Atlanta and Fulton County. And I think that this bill, the criminal justice reform package, is another step in that direction. Specifically, I just want to check, do I have 2 minutes or 3? Okay, I just didn't know if I should speed talk or I could take a breath. I'm going to take a breath. I want to speak specifically to the part of the package that refers to ending broken windows policing, and it is a repeal of a good number of ordinances. I think that we are in a social, political, and historical moment when communities across the country and absolutely here in Atlanta are unequivocally saying that change is needed in how our police and our communities interact. Communities across the country and the Department of Justice have really agreed that the criminalization of communities can be deadly, whether that's via daily fines and fees or that is by some of the shocking violence we've seen. And I would love to go into more detail and history of broken windows policing, of the theory, even just how 2 months ago in New York, their Inspector General found that there's absolutely no evidence of a link between broken windows policing and a reduction in felonies or violent crimes. But in a longer conversation, and I see I'm being signaled, but I just want to say that let's have a conversation about the behaviors that we don't like seeing in our communities. Let's have a conversation about the underlying things that are happening, but let us not lock people up in jail for spitting on the sidewalk, for idling, for drinking 1,000 feet from a liquor store. These are things that should not be on the books. They're not the right direction for us as a city. And we are poised to be leaders in the South and in the nation in real reform that transforms these relationships between communities and police, and which paves the way for a really very different and much more effective community safety system. So thank you.
Thank you for listening to me. I'm here to talk about the over 400,000 families that are impacted by mass incarceration here in the state of Georgia, and the leadership of Councilman Halls and these criminal justice reform packages and how important they are. The impact is far greater than what you realize when we pick up people that have mental health and addiction issues. We put them in a place that the sheriffs know, Chief Labat understands. These don't work. They do not have the resources necessary to take care of these human beings. So the only way that we will really truly fix the mass incarceration conundrum that we have, or crisis, it's a true crisis. I have a son that's in prison here in the state of Georgia. He was arrested in Atlanta. I'm an Alpharetta resident. Doesn't really matter. You're not my city council. But Atlanta is a leader, and we need to have you guys be the catalyst for the change. A catalyst is uncomfortable. These conversations are very uncomfortable. But they're real, and they're real people. And the impact is on every single citizen here in the state of Georgia and in our country. Whether you have someone you love that's caught up or not, you're paying for my son's dinner every day, and I thank you for that.
Greeting council members. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I'm here in support of an ordinance by Councilmember Kwanzaa Hall to support integrity and transparency. On April the 30th, 2015, my daughter Alexia Christian was shot and killed by Atlanta Police Department. It took 14 months before I received any kind of answers, and if that's what you want to call it. They gave me a dash cam video that only showed a street view, and they gave me audio where I was able to hear my daughter's last breaths and when she took her last breath. This is what they gave me, and then I got the response that the DA did not find the officer guilty. The officer's guilty. I believe that this transparency, as Mr. Judge Graves have spoke, you know, family takes care of family. APD did an investigation on APD. They didn't allow anyone else to come in and do an investigation. They told me at one time, they being District Attorney Paul Howard, he spoke and told me that he had 18 videos of my daughter's shooting, but they were all grainy. Well, 14 months later, I was only presented with a dash cam that showed nothing, only allowing me to hear her voice and hear the actions that took place, which can be concluded that anything happened. You know, it wasn't clear, it's still not clear. It's been, you know, going on 15, 16 months now that my oldest child has been taken from me, and I still don't know why. Transparency was promised to me by Chief Turner, parent to parent, how he put it. He will do everything in his power to help me find out what happened to my daughter. I still haven't found out. The media has disgraced my daughter in a way. Yes, she didn't have a bright background, but the way that they represented her on national television was like she was some type of monster. But now I can't get them to be transparent and show me exactly what happened. If you can recall, Sandra Bland's video went immediately. The public was able to see what happened. If indeed my daughter was in the wrong, I am ready and prepared to accept what she did and accept what happened. But because I've not been given the opportunity to know exactly what happened to my child, I'm in very discomfort. You know, I'm very uncomfortable. I am now left to raise her two sons, one being here with me. And what am I to do? You know, we're talking about our justice system on how everybody is handling, you know, the pre-arrest diversion program. I support that as well, because maybe if something happens with my boys growing up, they might not be left to do nothing but have some kind of attitude or problems against APD. You feel me? Because they may look at it as, well, the police killed my mama. So they're not going to be given an opportunity. I'm going to do everything in my power to raise them so that they don't have this hardness on them. But just so happen, it does happen that way. You know, this is what they're left to do. You know, this is what they're left with. Okay, I'm looking at social media where the police officers are doing the shuffle and all these different things, you know, trying to get good in the public eye. Well, have integrity. Be transparent. Show this parent what happened to her child. If my child was wrong, show me she was wrong. I shouldn't be left with no closure on to why my firstborn child is not here. It's not fair, and I feel like, you know, the council members can maybe persuade APD to, in fact, have some transparency and let me know what happened to my child, along with other parents that have lost their children. It's not fair, you know, and I thank you for allowing me this moment.
Next speaker is Ms. Sharon Ravert.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak for a few minutes. Let me get my glasses on. Found out this morning that this was going on, so I'm not as prepared as often, but here we go. Thank you for the opportunity to address the Honorable City Council. My name is Sharon Ravert. I'm a native Atlantan. I'm speaking on behalf of Peachtree NORML Foundation, National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. I am a member of LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and I lead up the group Moms United to End the War on Drugs in Georgia. I want to take a minute to applaud the city, law enforcement, judges, and many of my harm reduction colleagues for the work on criminal justice reform that's been done thus far. I have seen a focus on diversion and reentry, and fantastic work has been accomplished, but there's still more to be done. I ask that we also begin the work on the front end. In other words, do what we can to stop the influx of our young people, people of color, our citizens of Georgia, and our neighbors into the criminal justice system at all. I won't take much longer. I realize we are short on time, but I'm going to try and run through a few things real quick. I have printed off material for your review. I've got one, I think, for everybody here. So I'll just run through these real quick. American youth are in trouble, literally. 1 in 3 children will be arrested for a non-traffic violation before they hit 23 years old. 52% of all drug arrests, the majority of which is what they're going to be arrested for first, are marijuana. 88% of those are possession only. In Atlanta, 94% of people arrested in the city for cannabis are people of color. The ACLU 2010 report shows that white people use at slightly higher rates than other races. Between 70 million and 100 million, or 1 in 3 citizens, are now living with a criminal record. We cannot afford this socially or fiscally. We cannot afford this in our communities and in our families. 1 in 34 U.S. citizens are under some form of state supervision: jail, prison, probation, parole. In Georgia, shockingly, that number is 1 in 13. I ask you to do what you can to encourage, like you said, the Gold Dome. I know y'all have friends there. Encourage people around the community to begin the conversation. I ask you to refocus our resources from marijuana eradication and arrest to public safety, to clearance rates, to solving violent crime and crimes with victims. Prohibition is ending across this country and across the world. Atlanta, I ask you to be the leader in Georgia on these issues. I know where we can save some money. Georgia spends $121,898,152 every year enforcing marijuana laws. Thank you. Is it all right if I pass these to somebody?
Sure. Next speaker is Mr. Marshall Rancifer.
Good afternoon, City Council members. It's been a minute since I've been here. Been sick, recovering from meningitis. But I wanted to talk to y'all about a number of different subjects. Mainly the disparity in police arrests. Y'all realize that Atlanta is 54% black, 39% white, but yet 95% of the marijuana arrests are people of color, black folks. While I was recovering, I just spent the last 3 months going through the uniform police reports to get the disparity numbers, and I'll be more than happy to email those facts and figures to y'all. I've already emailed them to Quanza Hall. He already has those figures. But juvenile arrest rates for blacks is like 98%. It's a 98% arrest rate compared to 2% for white folks that are being arrested. And like I said, the marijuana arrest rates are at 95%. And it's not like white folks are not smoking weed. Y'all enforcement and tactics of enforcement do not include that circle of people. And I just want to ask why. Why is the focus on drug arrests when it pertains to people being arrested, it's just focused on black folks? The other thing that I want to address as far as drug arrests, I know that y'all got that new task force over in English Avenue because I do an outreach in the neighborhood. which I've been constantly harassed by them. And I'm just walking around doing outreach, handing out condoms and doing HIV tests. But I've been stopped a number of times and pressed and asked for my ID for no reason other than the fact that I was there. And the thing of it is, y'all are not arresting any of the real drug dealers over there. All y'all arresting is the runners. And when the dope is starting to move, the heroin is starting to move out of the block and down the west corridor, down Martin Luther King, down Boone. It's not stopping. Y'all not putting a stop to it. All y'all doing is making them move further west. It's even all the way out to Fulton Industrial now. I've been finding youth syringes all along Martin Luther King and then Fulton Industrial. Matter of fact, I had to call and get some extra shots containers because I ran out of room in the containers that I had to put the syringes in. The other thing that I want to address is sex workers, because I was here when y'all were first were talking about banishing folks back 3 years ago. And it's not just the trans women that's affected, it's also cisgender women in the block and anywhere drug neighborhoods are. And what I think you can't arrest away prostitution, especially when people are doing it to feed their drug habits, or like the LGBTQ youth that do it as survival sex work. So instead of coming up for these programs at the jail, folks, like in the bluff, some women in the bluff that I know, they work jobs every day, but they have to turn to sex work at night to make enough to make ends meet to take care of their children and pay rent, pay lights, and buy groceries. So I guess what I'm saying is, instead of coming up with programs that's in the jail, why don't y'all come up with programs for folks that are not in jail to help them keep from going to jail in the first place? And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
We've heard a lot about many of the social issues that are plaguing our community. And as we are in this election season, I know we can't get too far into that from this chair, but I just want to remind all of you how important it is to be a part of the process. And it means that you have to get out and you have to make sure that you are counted. And the irony of that is that oftentimes when people are convicted of crimes, they lose their right to vote. And there's a process for having that right restored, etc. But it, quite frankly, is a vicious cycle, and it's a vicious cycle that we face on this side, and we face it on the other side, because when we leave here, we have families, and we are part of this community. And there is a very interesting book, if you've not read it, called Slavery by Another Name. And I thought of that book today because there's an article about the privatization of prisons and how the federal government is looking to expand that. And so for as many challenges as we have as a community, I think that, and I've said this time and time again, I think that we have to take a close look at where this all begins, and quite frankly, it begins in our schools, which again, when you talk about allocation of resources, who makes those decisions? Your elected officials make those decisions. And so I would just say to you, remember this in November, and remember this not just on the national level, but you need to think about it at every level. The legislature will go back into session in January, and across the street is where these decisions are made. They decide how money is spent throughout this state, how it trickles down to cities and counties. And we certainly have a responsibility, and we need to do our part, but also you all have to do your part as well.